your release, how did that call go, and how did you feel? Was it a surprise to you?
Yeah, it was a very big surprise just because, like I said in my tweet, like it was just more shocking than anything, just because I did not expect that from what was being said to me, and then also not being said to me as well. I could have, part of me is like, oh, okay, now I'm looking back at things, I'm like, all right, it does make sense. But so for my side of the story, which everybody plays the game of telephone in the wrestling universe,
Yeah.
so my side of the story is New Year's Eve. Go to a party with friends that I was around with throughout COVID who were constantly tested. We all know because we all work together. So it's a small knit group that we have. We had a New Year's party and there was multiple New Year's party, and that's where the mix up came. At somehow, I don't know, higher, but doesn't really mean anything now. But so we had the New Year's party. Next day, go to TV. I test negative. We work TV. Blake and I are there with Corbin. We do our thing. Monday, I find out one of the friends that we had there tested positive. So Deanna and I went out. We got tested like we should do, like anybody should have done, like the right minded. And I came back negative, and that was that Monday. So okay, cool. No symptoms, nothing happening. Go to TV Friday, and I test positive for the nose swab at WWE TV at Tropicana Field. I'm like, okay, what do I do? Get on the hotline with the doctors. We talk, we find out what's going on. And they said, yep, just quarantine. Okay, cool. Talk to the writers. Everything's cool. And then Blake tested negative, so he stayed. So I'm on my way home. And then here I am getting text from Blake, get a phone call. I'm like, hey, do you have heat? Like for something you have done? I'm like, I don't know why. He goes, somebody's kind of pissed. And a few people said in the meeting that like Vince wanted to fire you at that moment. And then I had a few friends that were in the meeting as well. I was like, okay, that's good. So, of course, I send a message to Mark Carano and saying, hey, like, I don't know what's going on or what's being thrown around. If there's anything you need to talk to me about, please call me, text me, let me know what's up. No answer. And that's how I found out pretty much that I had COVID that day. Did quarantine for the next week. Kept in contact with writers. Still no answer back from hire of writing team and creative team. Um, yeah. What a time. So it was just one of those moments of lost. And then one of the writers that we kept in touch with said, no, you guys are fine. You guys are brought up in creative as well. Okay, cool. And then weeks go by again. I know Vince McMahon wasn't at TV for a while because his brother passed, and
Yeah.
condolences for that. Like, so we kind of knew, like, all right, cool. Obviously, we're not getting an answer because the boss isn't there. Makes sense. So in the meantime, I got in touch with Mark Carano because Otis reached out to me. He's like, hey, brother, you mind like coming around, like rolling around like with the big man class? He's like, could use some
Yeah.
help. I'm like, dude, definitely. I was like, it gets me in the ring, keeps me in shape. I get to actually be in a good ring. And at the PC, and I know everybody, and I can bump around and I know how Otis works. We've worked together for years. So that day, I'm in there. It's Coach Adam Pierce, well, producer Adam Pierce at that time, myself, Drew Gulak, Babbitt Tunde, and then Big Jordan. I forget what his name is now on TV.
Omas.
Omas, thank you. Awesome human being.
Yeah.
And we're all just kind of rolling around, and I get done in the ring, and I have a text from Mark Carano saying, hey, Steve, he's like, when you give me a chance, give me a call. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's just about maybe something creative. I text him back. I'm like, hey, I'm just leaving the PC now. Can you call now? He's like, oh, I'm getting on a flight to Tampa. He's like, I can get back to you here in a little bit. I was like, no problem. A few hours go by. I get home, eating dinner. It's around 7:30, and then I get the call from Carano saying, hey, Steve. I'm like, oh, hey, Mark, how is everything? He's like, good. He's like, I don't making these calls, but obviously. And I instantly just clicked instantly. I'm like, I'm getting fired. Awesome.
Damn.
Looked at D. I was just like, gosh, what's the matter? I was like, well, I'm getting fired. And lo and behold, almost a year later, it's the same exact time frame, kind of close to when she was let go.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things. And the phone call just, I don't know, it was more upsetting just because for me to say that creative had nothing for us was kind of no, I got fired because I had heat for COVID. And I know people kind of say like, well, that's your own fault. I'm like, yeah, maybe it is. But at the same time, I took my own precautions. I live in the state of Florida that it's an open state of policies on anything with COVID related. I wear my mask when I'm out. I do what I'm supposed to do. But then when I'm around friends that I know are tested, I try to take care of that myself. And I surround myself with who I know that we're good with. And if it happened like we did, I got tested. So with the phone call, it was just being told creative had nothing for us. And I called BS right away on that. I let him have his piece. And I was like, well, if creative has nothing for us, why do we have merchandise? Why are we being told we're going to be in the storyline? I was like, I was told our storyline with the Mysterios was scrapped because when they contracted COVID, that took us off TV and scrapped that story for that little bit. And then they tried to go back to it. And then Murphy got COVID. And it was just like, it just kept building up, building up. And it's just like, listen, everything that you're saying is honest, but we just have to say that creatively had nothing for you. Okay. I was like, so if creative had nothing for me, then for the last year since we've been off TV, Blake and I, because of the Twitter situation with Riker, how do you have nothing for me when I've pitched ideas almost every week? And that was also, hey, everything you're saying, there's nothing wrong with what you're saying, but creative had nothing for me. So just to end it on that is like, I know I did everything on my end that I could as a company guy, and also for my love of the company and for just of the business in general that I could on my end. But now, like I said, I get to create, I get to be me. And that's the one thing now I love the most is I really don't have anybody to tell me no, like always.
So there's an awful lot to unpack there. Had you
Yeah.
had, I assume that you hadn't had any FaceTime with Vince since the COVID test. One, because obviously you had COVID for a little while, but two, his brother had passed away, as you mentioned, and then you were released. So from that point, did you ever, like, were you at the tapings again? Like, how did that work?
We were just told, nope, don't worry about it. You guys are fine. Just stay at home. Like writers have ideas once we're needed, like, because they were trying to be strict to the protocols of with COVID,
Sure.
which is understandable of like, why be in the building when you don't need to be, which makes sense. Because a lot of the times people are just sitting in catering anyway, and then you just leave.
One of
So it
the
makes sense to keep it that way, I think, in the safe standpoint.
one of the theories that was thrown out to me by talent was, well, Steve Cutler was released because Super Bowl weekend's coming up, and this is the definitive way to say, don't be at a Super Bowl party without a mask. Had you heard that at all?
No, well, yes and no. I know I was made the example of, and I get it. I was in the military, being in the Marines. There's always that one person, and it only takes one. I was made the example of, but I know that for a fact, people were out for New Year's. Nobody's stupid. Like, people are going to go out on New Year's, enjoy themselves. Me, I did the cautious thing where I'm around friends that I'm always with. But at the same time, like, it's a blessing in disguise. I look at it now, I'm like, cool, this is the greatest thing to ever happen to me. And I had a few people write out as soon as I was let go, that was one of the few texts to me of other people that were let go saying like, you have no idea how great this is going to be for you.
So I had posted a tweet yesterday that you never know what the future's going to hold for a WWE wrestler when they're released. 5 of their last 9 champions were released at some point. Another guy left for 8 years. Do you see that bridge is burned, or do you think that maybe down the line you could do business with them again?
I could see that there's an open door policy. From what I'm told, everybody always has that open door policy. Obviously, I had that heat with Vince, so that's also one of those things where I don't know if he would forget it, because it's one of those things where one thing happens one day and somebody else screws up the next day and it's forgotten about type thing. But
We've
yeah,
also
I
seen
do.
Gallows. We've seen Gallows come back, and Vince didn't remember who he used to be. So if you get over as Steve Maclin, there's a good chance he'd be like, it's Steve Maclin.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where that's just wrestling. And like I said, I was made the example of, and I'm fine with it. And it's still, again, one of the best things. Does it hurt? Yes. Because as a kid, this is all I dreamed of ever doing was wrestling for the WWE. But now in the world of professional wrestling and sports entertainment, like, you have so many avenues. There are so many places to work, and that's the best thing for anybody. And even with their last batch of releases, like, there's so many places to work and there's opportunity. The world's starting to open up again in the wrestling world. And like, I feel it. And I'm talking with friends, like, that indie bubble right now of independence, like, people are ready just to enjoy wrestling again in that sense for live crowds. And I can't wait for that, because that's my favorite thing of wrestling is the live crowds. Like, TV is great and all, but live crowds, you get to interact, you get to have fun, stuff happens organically. And that's where I have the most fun.